I don't know if we're gonna get through the whole thing, but this is one I've been wanting to watch. As you guys know, our unc, one of our favorite YouTubers here, FD Signifier, the King of the Blacks, as we have elected him, did a video called Charlie Kirk and the Conservative Death Cult. And guys, I can't believe I was not streaming when Charlie got kirked. And I just feel like I really let you guys down. Now, the funny is a weird word to use with that, but the funny thing is, when it happened, I was at the campaign office with like, I think a couple people were there, definitely the campaign manager, and like we're sitting there, and one of them was like, Charlie Kirk just got shot. And I was like, what? And I opened up Twitter, and I saw the most just gruesome video of that. But we would not be saying RIP unless RIP stands for rest in piss. Charlie Kirk was a bad man who did bad things, and although we at the Blue Broadcast channel do not condone political violence, you know, sometime you fuck around and sometimes you find out, and that's between you and your God, not between me. All right, but I will tell you this, and I'll say it proudly: the world is one iota less shitty and one iota less racist. And well, I guess it actually balances out because now we got fucking Erica, who might be worse, which sounds misogynistic, but it's not. Anyway. Yeah, so rest in piss, Charlie Kirk. That song they did for you was dog shit. And all the Charlie Kirk memes are hilarious, every last one of them. In fact, the Charlie Kirk memes might be the only ethical use of AI. Anyway, M said, but we got Drewski as Erica. And honestly, motherfucking worth it. Motherfucking worth it. Abso-goddamn-lutely worth it. Oh, man. God, Drewski really is a fucking gem. All right. Hold on. God, I'm so bad at streaming. Hold on. We back.
So, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm gonna give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
I want to watch.
You know that thing where it's like, fucking if I'm lying, God strike me down. That just kind of came to my mind, unrelated. Anyway, Charlie Kirk, Kirky Chark got kirked. And, yeah.
On April 20th, 1999, I was in my junior year of high school in math class in the middle of what seemingly was a normal day. And my teacher, whose name I don't quite remember, came into class late with a ghostly look on his face. He was a first year teacher, one of the few black male teachers I think I had all through high school. He was from Colorado, so he had a bit of a Carlton Bank swag, very proper. But he settled us down and then announced that there had been a shooting at a high school in Colorado and that our school, way in Illinois, might be dismissed soon. I didn't go to a school where I worried about.
Salute to Illinois, y'all. You know what I mean? The big ill, the big Noid. You know what I mean? Chicago's very own.
Safety that much. This is the South Chicago suburbs in the 90s, and don't get me wrong, gang violence was definitely a thing, even in the suburbs back then. But in my school, at worst, there were a few fights. I might have seen some gang activity once or twice. So it was weird to all of us that this shooting was significant enough in a whole state across the country that they were gonna cancel school here, or that anything about our school in particular would need to change in the aftermath of the Columbine massacre. Now understand, gang issues have been relevant to the city of Chicago for decades. I wasn't even allowed to wear a certain color combination since like 5th grade because even in the suburbs, the gang problem was serious enough for them to pay attention. I had to learn a handshake or two to walk through my neighborhood just to get to school for a short period of time. but I didn't know any serious gangsters, right? I wasn't in the streets like that. And the streets that you would have to be in like that were not near me. But I do vividly remember stories of Yummy Sandifer, Dantrell Davis, and Girl X. Horrifying stories of crime in Chicago in the 90s, but far enough away that I didn't think about it in my daily life. At the same time, it did reflect enough of my world that I understood that I was still somewhat a part of it. But I didn't fear it at school. My high school was pretty decent. It was well mixed at the time, both racially and socioeconomically. There was a handful of rougher kids in the city who went to school, but that was it. I worried more about getting roasted at the lunch table than getting chased home by GDs. But after Columbine,
You know, that is kind of the weird part about it is I know FD means like, because FD is also a millennial. He's just a elder millennial. I think FD might be in his 40s. But I similarly, I mean, the school shootings was not like a thing that like we worried about, and I know that's like completely different. I mean, even when like I talk to someone like Kat, you know, who is in her I guess now late 20s, mid to late 20s ish, how like fucking regular that was, and how like fully affected her school experience, and like even some of the younger people I've met out here in their like early 20s. It's kind of fucking crazy actually. It's super. I can't even imagine what it's like. Even like at my job, and I don't like working in an office, but like, we have those like I'm not school, but like those office shooter trainings every fucking year. It's bizarre, honestly.
I suddenly had a new fear that I needed to face every day. Random, quiet, edgy white boys. Well, not super random, because one thing that came out of Columbine was that there was a certain type of young white male that was almost always behind these types of events, and they were more common at my school than any alleged thugs. See, much like the black parts feeding into the school, there were also poor white parts, and I noticed early on that the poor white kids at the school did not mix well with the ones from the nicer part of the suburbs. In fact, they were bullied incessantly by those kids, and some of those kids fit the description, if you will. They seemed frustrated with the world in ways that didn't make sense to me, because to me, they were still white, couldn't be that bad, right? Over the years, I found most of these guys on Facebook, and most of them, I would say, are living useful, healthy lives. Most of them actually have moderate to liberal politics at the end of the day. But a few of them still seem very, very angry. But these days, I kind of get it. Young men like Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris, the perpetrators of the Columbine massacre, they, for whatever reason, felt very similar to these boys and men, and they just decided to respond in destructive and horrifying ways. And of course, they weren't the first or the last.
Students also say that members of the small suburban gang bragged about their guns and ammo. One cyber chatter even recalled a previous warning that a certain El Caress wrote about preparing for the big April 20th. You're all gonna be sorry. Terrorism experts widely know that this time of year has been extremely violent throughout history. April 19th is the anniversary of many painful moments, from Waco to Ruby Ridge to Oklahoma City. And this past April 20th was the 110th anniversary of Adolf Hitler's birthday.
April 20th might just turn out to be a watershed date for an event such as what occurred in Colorado, and might in the future precipitate other types of events like this.
In 1999, Columbine was actually the fourth school shooting.
Adam said, wait, is that the same slang we use now? The big, what? That's insane. Oh, sorry, I missed that. Hold on, let me go back. Hold on.
And of course, they weren't the first or the last.
Students also say that members of the small suburban gang bragged about their guns and ammo. One cyber chatter even recalled a previous warning that a certain El Caress wrote about preparing for the big April 20th. You're all gonna be sorry. Terrorism experts widely know that this time of year...
Oh, yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, Adam, that is weird. Yeah, what the fuck?
Year has been extremely violent throughout history. April 19th is the anniversary of many painful moments, from Waco to Ruby Ridge to Oklahoma City. And this past April 20th was the 110th anniversary of Adolf Hitler's birthday.
April 20th might just turn out to be a watershed date for an event such as what occurred in Colorado and might in the future precipitate other types of events like this.
In 1999, Columbine was actually the fourth school shooting to get significant media coverage in around 4 years. A few years before, Kip Kinkle shot 20 students a day after murdering both his parents in Oregon. In that same year, 2 middle school students set up a sniper's nest and pulled the fire alarm at Westside Middle School in Arkansas, killing a teacher and 4 middle schoolers. Sometime later, there was another shooting in Georgia, or maybe it was back in Colorado, maybe it was Illinois. Fast forward some years, and it's a guy driving a car through a college in California. It's hard to say. There's so many, and to be honest, I personally stopped counting them the way I did back in 2012 in Newton, Connecticut, because that's when I realized that no matter what happened or how many people died, nothing was ever going to be done about this problem. In 2012, Adam Lanza used a Bushmaster XM15 to kill 27 people, 7 adults and 20 elementary school age children. You would think that such an event would elicit national outrage strong enough to change gun laws in this country forever. That's what happened in other places where mass shootings occur. You'd think that this nation would do some deep reflection on its engagement with guns, mental illness, and the ways young men, mostly white young men, are being socialized to make sure that something this senseless would never happen again.
Well, the problem with that, FD, as I'm sure you're going to get into, is that America, like, violence and violence particularly done with guns is like our religion. You know what I mean? Like, it is like sacred. You know, like we worship at the altar of fucking gunpowder and bullets and shit like that. Like it is like many problems, uniquely American. And I mean, the closest we ever got to getting any sort of gun reform was our good friend of the show, Ronald Wilson Reagan. That is Ronald 6, Wilson 6, Reagan 6. The Antichrist himself, when he was governor of California, implemented some stronger gun control legislation after the Black Panthers peacefully protested out of in front of state houses with guns in hand that they were legally able to hold. So the closest we got was when a racist guy saw a bunch of Negroes walking around with guns. Maybe that would do it. I don't know.
Surely someone would pay a price for the death of nearly 30 innocent people, mostly innocent children, innocent, mostly white children. But no, instead, it actually birthed a new conspiracy movement. People like Alex Jones made harassing the families of the victims their.
By the way, Alex Jones of InfoWars, now owned by my very good friend Tim Onion and The Onion. Yes, folks, Tim Onion has turned the extremist right-wing slop machine gay. Freaking gay, folks. We did it. We freaking did it.
New content formula, so much so that he was sued into relative obscurity. And once that happened, it became clear nothing would ever be done about these types of spree shootings because it's more important to serve the interests of gun lobbyists and the ideology that represents it than to serve the people suffering from the gun violence themselves. Because to them, to white America especially, it's worth it. I think it's worth it to have
a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
Oh, and listen, one thing, one Kirk I'll say about Big Charlie, Big Chuck, is that nigga lived and died by his beliefs. Boy, listen. Hey, man. You know, one thing I'll say about right wingers, most of them say nonsense they don't believe or would never stand by. Old Chucky Kirk. Oh, he meant that shit. Hey, game recognized, I guess. Goofy.
A source tells CNN that Trump ally and the founder of Turning Points USA, Charlie Kirk, was shot at an event on a college campus in Utah.
Kirk was actually shot in the neck. The school adding that Kirk was 20 minutes into speaking
when shots were fired from a nearby building. According to the university, there are reports that Kirk was hit.
We can hear the audio where an audience member asked Kirk about mass shooters in America right before the gunshot. An audience member says, "Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?" Kirk says, "Counting or not counting gang violence," and that is when that single shot was fired.
It is my great dishonor to be the person that says this and breaks this to you on television, but Charlie Kirk, according to the President of the United States, is dead.
When I look at the very public, gruesome murder of Charlie Kirk, I can't help but realize that for the first time since 2012, I'm reminded of this brand of spectacle violence, somewhere between terrorism, true crime, political violence, and accelerationism. But, and here's an important part, almost always exclusively white, both in the victims, but also the perpetrators. It's actually not ideal to talk openly about the perpetrators of mass shootings. I'm gonna break some social mores in this video, among many other things. The reason why I call it spectacle violence is because for the most part, the individuals that do these horrific acts do them for attention. It's why they write manifestos and send press kits to local media. Some have even live streamed their crimes. So talking about them publicly ends up being exactly what they want, and in many ways, it motivates copycats. However, at a certain point, I feel like certain conversations need to be had, especially when some of the main people who need to hear these things are trying very hard to avoid the subject. The underlying forces behind these events, behind the murder of Charlie Kirk and even the attempted murder of Donald Trump, are things the right deeply wants to avoid, because talking about these things might force many on the right to critically engage with the ongoing struggle that the right is in with its own ideology and the tangible results that ideology leads to, which, to put simply, is rampant unnecessary death. And by rampant unnecessary death, I'm not just talking about the multiple genocides happening across the world through American imperialism or the many preventable deaths happening because of poor healthcare or poverty.
Free Gaza, free Sudan. None of us are free until all of us are free. Lock it down. Social now, brother. It's good to see you, man. Sorry about last time. I was having some streaming issues, but we are back, guys. Social now is the motherfucking man. My socialist brother. Dude, make sure you guys follow Social now. Social, we should talk. I'm curious how your streaming journey is going, but your boy is back in the house. We are talking about, or we're listening to FD Signifier talk about Chucky Kirk and how he got kirked in the neck. You know, R.I.P. aka rest in piss to the boy. Social, I have sad news since you were gone. Oh no, what happened, man?
Poverty in America right now. I'm genuinely just talking about normal white people that are dying or killing themselves greatly due to the ideology that the right promotes throughout this country. I believe many modern conservatives, particularly the men, are in a death cult. It's not a hot take to speak to how the party of Trump thrives on the pain and suffering of others, but today for this video, I want to spend time on the real byproduct of that. The fact that the biggest body counts, at least here in the States, is actually other white people, and that the cult works extremely hard, often using figures like Charlie Kirk to hide this reality or maybe make it seem like it's all worth it, as we see them do with his death in particular. I had no desire or intention to talk about Kirk because I try my best to avoid these types of headaches. But in the wake of his death, the right has tried to turn him into Martin Luther King, and Charlie Kirk directly insulted Martin Luther King's legacy.
Yeah, and the Civil Rights Act, though, let's be clear, created a beast, and that beast has now turned into an anti-white weapon.
Yeah, and that's the reality.
So,
and see, it's moments like that why I smile every time I see old Chucky getting disrespected on these interwebs. What a vile, disgusting human being. Like, not only a disrespect to one of the greatest civil rights leader that we've ever had, but very much in the line, his line of thinking is that black people should not have rights. And not only should they not have rights, but them having rights have only pushed my agenda, which is racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, death, destruction. He's slowed down that train. And you know what? We're better off now that he's in the ground. And someone can clip that.
There's a need for some direct pushback and response in this regard. Also, I have to admit, I'm a bit fearful of the response this might get from the right. They seem to feel like this one time, nobody should disagree with their views of this guy or make fun of the fact that he died, that nobody should make jokes about a person who was overtly hateful and ugly to them. Mind you that in the days after the death of George Floyd, conservatives created the George Floyd Challenge on social media, where they took pictures of themselves mocking Floyd's last moments with
like, not only is this like insane and disgusting, but like, and I you know, this is why I love FD. I'm really glad that he covered up this face, but like you're not just a disgusting, hateful, bigoted piece of fucking shit, but you are also raising your children to be exactly like you. And the only thing that we can hope for is that they are so repulsed by who you are and the vile creature that you are that they run in the opposite direction. But you're such a fucking piece of shit that you won't let them go unscathed because you have taught your child to be a hateful, bigoted piece of shit, and then you documented your child acting in those hateful, bigoted ways, and then you posted it on the fucking internet. So now this child can't even move past this because you're so motherfucking vile. Disgusting.
Last moments before his death. And to this day, they are so obsessed with mocking him that they're still keeping him alive through memes and AI. But somehow, Charlie Kirk is where we draw the line. So you guys got that one, sure. With that said, I will forewarn you, this is going to be a pretty gruesome, ugly, hard to watch video at times. I'm going to talk candidly and maybe even flippantly about death and self-harm and mental illness and mass murder and all the isms. While I have some hopeful things to speak to by the end, this is definitely a video that will make you feel shitty at times because it made me feel shitty making it. But it needs to be done. It needs to be known years from now when we finally are out of this situation that many people saw this nonsense for what it was and will hopefully be there to inform those who don't know any better just who Charlie Kirk was and the greater context in which he lived. Because these ugly times won't last forever, and historical record is needed lest we carelessly repeat avoidable mistakes. So let's talk about Charlie Kirk and the cult that killed him. Part 1. The origins of the culture war.
The American family, liberty, freedom, the Constitution, our history, veterans. That's what we're conserving.
You are on the precipice of the most important culture war.
Young men do not know how to control themselves. Ladies, would you agree? Oh, don't worry. I'm going to do the whole other side of this in a second, so you better be...
Example of a man, not young, although younger than me, forever younger than me, goofy. Example of another young man right here who does not know how to control himself. Like, he's got these like evil, bigoted thoughts in his mind. He just can't control himself. And, you know, and now I don't have to ever hear him again, except for right now, unfortunately.
Ready. You better be ready. They're like, oh, yeah. It's going to...
Boy, this nigga is 80% gums. Holy shit, golly. Jesus.
Be an equal opportunity offender.
To understand Charlie Kirk in totality, we first need to understand that he isn't the first, nor will he be the last of his kind. In fact, he's part of a long-standing tradition of right-wing provocateurs whose job is not doing politics the right way, as some.
I just want to add, FD jumped by it, but I love that he used the Tucker Carlson talking about how he can't jerk off to the green M&M anymore. And you know what? That boy a freaky frog. He's a freaky freak. Do not chat. Do not spam and send Tucker Carlson those AI videos. I don't know what that's going to do to that boy. Golly.
Dumb asshole might say on their podcast. But instead, he was furthering a far-right agenda in this country, and this is apparent in just how far the right has been able to shift the Overton window in terms of what are even acceptable things to say or believe in our modern society. For example, no American would have supported or even seriously engaged with the idea of a president getting a third term ever since FDR did it nearly 75 years ago. It's literally in the Constitution. However, for weeks now, as of recording, Republicans, even Republican officials, have been seriously priming Americans for the argument that Trump should get a third term and how that's actually okay under the Constitution.
You know, I unrelated to that, I do want to say, you know, in a piece of grace and kindness, I know that Trump and Charlie Kirk were very close friends. I know he loved him very much. I know he misses him, and, you know, I just hope he gets to see him one day, you know. That's all I hope.
He had longer odds in 16 and longer odds in 24 than we got in 28. And President Trump will be the president of the United States, and the country needs him to be president.
Or is it constitutional for President Trump to run for a third term? He's teasing that.
You know, if you read the Constitution, it says it's not, but if he says he has some different circumstances.
These fucking they're just they're so fucking pussy. They're so fucking pussy. Oh my God. Look at his face. He knows it's batshit, but he's like, oh, what the fuck I'm gonna do? Trump gonna yell at me on fucking Truth. This is insane. Truth Social, guys. Follow me or don't follow me on Truth Social. What a fucking spineless piece of shit. I don't even know your name. And I'm not gonna learn it.
That might be able to go around the Constitution, but that's up to him. We got a long way to go.
But you're open to it.
Well, I think that there's going to have to be an evaluation.
Not even George W. Bush, who was very, very bad. The fact that he's the last Republican president before Trump has managed to whitewash his past. He was not good. Don't let the old painting sad man.
Or Michelle Obama. Do not let Michelle Obama or the painting or the fact he's kind of cute now. Fuck, come on. Tommy, God. I told you I didn't want to learn his name. I told you I didn't want to learn his goddamn name. Fuck. Of course it's Tommy goddamn Tupperville, Mr. Potato Town himself. Oh, God. Nope.
They'll fool you. But as bad as he was, he never would have thought of sending troops in the military and the National Guard to American cities and states that he didn't like. But Trump is threatening to send American troops to low-crime cities like Portland, stating that they need to be cleaned up, ignoring the much more dangerous cities in red states. And the right eats this all up. Mind you, and this will be a recurring theme, none of this is really helping anyone, let alone many of the working-class white people who voted for Trump. While Trump's appeal is more diverse than people like to believe, this is just something you have to acknowledge. At the end of the day, his base, like all Republicans for years, has been among uneducated whites and rural white people. People who, for the most part, have never benefited from his policies. For example, regarding the ongoing government shutdown that is still in place as of writing, the shutdown is happening because Republicans want to make major cuts to many social safety net programs, which will impact poorer Americans. And despite the efforts of Republicans for decades to make it seem like the poor are only undeserving black and brown people leeching off the government, the majority of Americans receiving those benefits are white. And these same white people will support Trump literally to their death. Why is this the case? And what does it have to do with Charlie Kirk? To make sense of that, I want to dive into the concept of
chat. My birthday is June 7th, and if someone gives me this biblically accurate Charlie Kirk Funko Pop with the face too small, I'll love you forever. I'll love you forever. Give me 2 so I can give me 3. I'm gonna burn 1, I'm gonna keep 1, and then I'm gonna accurately never mind. Y'all not gonna cancel me, bucko.
Culture war, because it's through the culture war that all of this is possible. And they know this because Charlie Kirk actually named his college tour the Culture War Tour. So switching gears for a second, if you're at all on Twitter and social media in the months and weeks preceding the murder of Charlie Kirk, you probably caught wind of 2 other tragic killings. The killings of Austin Metcalf and Irina Zarutska both went viral on Twitter, as these were 2 young white lives ended by black men. Both of those black men, mind you, faced immediate legal charges. I want to be clear. It's genuinely sad, and I send condolences to their families regardless of the circumstances of their death. It's tragic when people die like this, especially when their deaths have become flashpoints in culture wars online. Austin Metcalf's father in particular showed an inspirational level of grace in the aftermath of his son's death that should be commended. Unfortunately, that father's grace is not being copied by the American right, who used his son's death to talk about black fatigue. Not the original use of that term, by the way, but a racist version that is basically white people getting tired of not being able to be openly racist. Similarly, Zarutska's death spurred legislative initiatives to reinstate and even expedite the death penalty in North Carolina, which, yikes, is really all I can say to that. And this is all after President Trump weaponized the deaths of white women at the hands of immigrants all through his campaign trail as a way to bolster his anti-immigrant agenda. And now we have ICE kidnapping people off the street and even in churches, gyms, and public schools.
I want you to take a look at something that just came about 2 days ago. We made a tape, which I'm going to show you, and it's a tape of a great mother who I got to know a little bit at one of the rallies.
Night accused of killing a 12-year-old girl.
Police say these men strangled her before dumping her into that creek. Both men were in the country illegally.
There are hundreds and even thousands of cases like that, and it's people coming into this country that are horrible people.
And as I saw these stories explode online and invigorate an already foaming at the mouth population of racist conservatives, I couldn't help but think to myself, but what about white-on-white crime? What about Vincent Bolletaro, the
Talk about it, FD. Talk about it. Talk about it. No one kills Americans or white Americans more than white Americans, brother. Honestly, I'm scared for white people because especially white right wingers, all of these assassination attempts on Trump and what happened to Kirk are all right wingers or former right wingers, all white. Like, it's like a death cycle. Like, Jesus Christ, don't y'all want a little bit more safety or something? Like, Jesus Christ.
Young Charlie Kirk fan who murdered 2 teenage girls whom he had been stalking for what seemed like months, even after getting a restraining order against them, by the way. Bolletaro's family is connected to law enforcement, but clearly they're very picky about who they need to protect and serve. Or what about insert countless other stories of white women murdered by white men since the beginning of time? Gabby Petito, Lacey Peterson, Natalie Holloway, the little girl that John Benet Ramsey. I've been seeing that girl's face since I was a child.
Now, what FD is forgetting that is that John Benet Ramsey is actually Erica Kirk. So she's safe, bud. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
It's actually cursed. Surely other young white women had been murdered in North Carolina. Were their deaths not worthy of attempting to reinstate the death penalty? What is it about DeCarlos Brown, the severely mentally ill black man that killed Ariana, that warrants such a response? Do you think that black men are the most pressing danger to white women in this country? If you do, it's probably because you're racist and low-key sexist, but I know I only have so much room with y'all right now.
Listen, man. It's very rare that you meet a racist that likes women. In fact, I would be curious to meet the feminist who's like, I love women, I support women, their bodily autonomy, their rights, but I just hate Negroes. It would blow my mind. It would blow my mind.
You can bet money, like literally, don't make this bet because you'll lose it, that if a young white woman is murdered in North Carolina, it will probably be from her white boyfriend or husband. Because all crime in this country is intraracial. At least 80% of white victims of violent crime, the perpetrator of that violence is also white. White people make up 74% of familial violence victims, meaning child abuse, domestic violence, and familicide, which makes sense because most family violence offenders are white. And females make up 80% of the victims for family violence, again, usually killed by a boyfriend or husband, very rarely a stranger. And considering that only around 10% of black men have a white spouse, the biggest threat to any white woman in this country by far.
And as Dr. Umar would say, that's 10% too many, brother. Not me. But that's what Dr. Umar would say. So, and he's a doctor. What do you want me to say about that? FD.
Is a straight white man. And that goes not just for murder, but also assault and especially rape and molestation. Yet somehow new laws form when a black man is the perpetrator, as if it's the right of white men to abuse, harm, and kill women that look like them. And it doesn't require new laws for put.
You know, as many men and women who are leftists wiser than me have said, white supremacy hurts white people too, guys. Hurts white people too. White supremacy is one of the biggest factors hurting white people right now. Just like the patriarchy hurts men, and homophobia hurts homophobes. Fucking idiots.
Convicts to death when they do it. And don't get me wrong, the rate of intimate partner violence in the black community is awful in so many ways, but don't all lives matter, y'all? Surely we shouldn't only focus on black people in this situation, not if what we actually care about are these innocent white lives. And isn't this kind of gross? Is this what y'all watch me for? Some of y'all, that's what y'all want out of me. Ugh. I hate it. I hate y'all so much. Sure, when you go low, going lower is a thing, but at the end of the day, bringing up white crime statistics in this way should just really make you feel icky. It's too much like the stuff they do. You know, further, it's not like any racist in the audience will suddenly be convinced to rethink their ways.
Chat, raise your hand if you're a racist in the audience. We're just taking the tally. I'm not gonna report you to woke Sharia. I promise you, those days are over. I'm on the other side, guys. Don't worry about it. It's a safe space to let me know that if you're a racist in the audience. Don't worry. We're just taking the head count. Don't even worry about it, okay?
Based on this information. And I'll come back to this in a moment, but this is not how actual minds are changed in reality. If racism or any other ism were an issue of logic and information, would have solved that issue years ago. But it's very clear after literal generations of learning and educating that no amount of explaining the truth to racists changes the way they see things. Racism's power to endure for so long in this country isn't due to hate. I hate that we talk about racism as an issue of hate because that allows for so many people, so many very racist people, to create distance from themselves and the actual damage they do with their racism because they don't necessarily feel.
And, you know, I'm glad FD brought this up. I think this is something I talked about on the stream past, but I do think that there's a big problem with us treating racism like it's just hate or, I mean, obviously racism is bad and evil and all of the isms are bad and evil, but like, it's one of those things where like, it's so repugnant and our understanding is so like childish and black and white that like it prevents us from doing some real internal kind of thinking and understanding of ourselves because like, you know, if you're racist or misogynist or homophobic or transphobic, right, you know, then, you know, that's an evil, bad thing. And I would never be an evil, bad person because no one sees themselves as even fucking this stupid dickhead right here sees themselves as some sort of fucking villain. You know what I mean? But like, we are all racist, right? We are all anti-black, you know, even black people, you know, we're all raised in white supremacy. That's what we That's what we're powered by, unfortunately. And so if we kind of keep viewing it as this thing that's like this other thing and not a part of us and our society and who we are and what we are, then we never will get down to go like, damn, I had a racist thought, or like, damn, I grew up with these racist thoughts, or damn, how about my parents are racist, right? Because your parents are good people, your parents are sweet, you love them, but they're probably racist and they're probably misogynistic, they're definitely homophobic, right? I have this thing on Twitter that I keep pinned. I did years ago where it was like it was gosh, I wish I could remember what it said. It was something like we're all misogynistic, right? Like including myself, and like misogyny and racism and all the isms. I think we should treat it like alcoholism, right? Like, and I like when you talk to an alcoholic who is no longer drinking AA, they never say that they're not an alcoholic anymore. They always say they're in recovery. That's the way I think of it, right? Like, I'm a misogynist in recovery, right? Everyone is a racist in recovery, right? We're all there, and we're all continuously working at breaking down those barriers that are kind of like a part of us. So I think it's really important that we always keep that perspective in mind. Like, we're all racist, we're all misogynistic, and we are all actively unlearning. And we're never going to get there to perfect, because we were born with the original sin of racism, of misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, even the best of us. And like, the fact, if we can accept that that is an inherent part of all of us, we can actually do the work to make ourselves better, So that's your little fun fact for the day. You're all racist, including me.
Feel hatred in their hearts when they do it, and they're probably correct. Racism isn't about hate. It's about indifference to harm being done to people that don't look like you, especially if that harm is useful for how you maintain your own status quo. Racism is still here because it has utility as an organizing social framework for white Americans. The role racism plays in this country is for building consensus in community. It's almost ritualistic in its use.
I am a Western chauvinist. And I refuse to apologize. I refuse to apologize.
Was he black? I heard you can't say the C word, the other C word on stream, so I will say, if he is black, that is a motherfucking trash panda, a trash bandit. And you don't realize that as soon as these white men, I guess there's 3 C words you can't say, I just thought about the other one. As soon as these white men have the power to kill with impunity, and they already do for the most part, you will be the first one lined up to the tree, brother. Sorry, hate to tell you that. Fucking ridiculous.
White youth for a generation have made racist jokes, not as an expression of hate, but almost as an initiation into whiteness as a concept, performing the agreement amongst each other that blackness is beneath them and unworthy of sanctity. This is why racist group chats exist so prominently, such as the one the Young Republicans got caught on earlier this year. This is why white kids on Omegle and other chat random sites and Call of Duty lobbies hurl slurs from the safety of their perceived anonymity, going all the way back to slavery. This is why poor whites had astoundingly low standards of living, but fought for the Confederacy because it preserved their way of life, as wretched as that way of life was. The lynchings of black people during slavery going into Jim Crow was often a community gathering or festival environment for white people. They would make flyers and sell food as they watched black bodies burn and hang from the poplar trees. Then afterwards, some would even take their body parts as souvenirs. Feel free to Google this. I am not making this up. The biggest falsehood about racism is that it's about the hatred of any group of people. But in reality, racism is about a perverse love for whiteness and the love language through which that is expressed. And this is just the overt stuff that whites will admit you shouldn't do. We shouldn't lynch people. We shouldn't say the N-word. They keep doing it and saying it's a joke, but they know they shouldn't. And the reason why that is still such a focus is because it serves as the cover for the much more harmful systemic racism that most whites, including Charlie Kirk, would never even admit exists.
There is nothing fascistic about deporting people in your country that are here illegally, securing your borders, and putting your own people first. How many of you students out there feel as if you'd be graded differently if you come out as a conservative or a Trump supporter? Raise your hand. Look around. That's fascism. That is definitional fascism.
Is it, Charlie? Is it? Because, like, you're a dumb fuck who couldn't get into college, and there's nothing wrong with not going to college. Let me clarify. But you're a dumb fuck who couldn't get into college, and you have made it into $1 million career. So, maybe it's fine.
Do you think, for all that I just said, do you think a few cherry-picked statistics and some witty clapbacks is going to change this? No. This is the culture wars.
And busy schedule to meet with us, the grassroots. We're fighting on college campuses every single day. We're fighting for the next generation. And to know that we have the backing of the most successful president of our generation means the world. Because look, we are in a culture war right now. We're fighting for free speech, for free markets, and for American exceptionalism. And to have the president take time out of his schedule to meet with us, to just exchange some ideas really, really means the world. And look, this is a battle that we're going to win.
And beyond that, we spoke about the black community and black issues.
My favorite trash panda right here. Look at her. Look at her. At least her hair done. Golly, she makes me fucking sick.
I can't stress enough how important culture wars are to the American right and to American politics in general. And this is because culture wars have effectively replaced actual politics for most people, right and left. But specifically for the right, it has been instrumental in convincing many people to vote against their best interests. When regular people are surveyed about policies, they almost always lean toward more progressive policies, more taxing the rich, less government in people's personal lives, sensible gun control laws, etc. It's not universal. Many Americans support tougher border laws, for example, but very few desire to see what's actually been happening under Trump since he's been elected. Even attitudes on abortion rights consistently fall to the left of Republican policies. Conservative voters constantly vote against their self-interest, whether they realize it or not. And even in moments where they do realize it, they still don't care because, as I've been saying, this is a cult and the culture wars are their, deep lore text. The culture wars, ironically, are proof that facts actually should care about feelings because people have been using feelings to override facts in this country for 100+ years. There's so many examples of this, both historical and recent. One is that conservatives are more likely to die from COVID due to vaccine hesitancy and resistance to masking. Despite the fact that science, logic, and so much information was telling them that masking and vaccines would save their lives, so many conservatives were literally, like, I remember vividly, I'll see if I can find the clip, a guy that was on a respirator talking about how he doesn't regret not getting a vaccine or masking, and then he died 2 days later.
I immediately asked Christopher, why hadn't he gotten the vaccine?
I'm more of a libertarian, and I don't like being told what I have to do. I'm still not completely 100% sold on the inoculation.
It was eerie to hear Christopher insist on his individual freedoms, even as he struggled to breathe.
You think I probably should have had a little healthier fear that it need to be taken more seriously? And because I don't know how close I am to being a lot worse. I really don't know.
Christopher Green died 9 days after this interview. He was 53 years old.
It doesn't take much to find countless examples of conservatives directly being hurt by Trump's policies on tariffs or ICE crackdowns.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, this is what I mean. Like, white supremacy, like the Republican fucking death cult is literally killing white people. Like, literally killing white people. Like, and like, the leftist in me has empathy for that man who died, not Charlie Kirk, but for that guy who died from COVID and his family. But the person, the black man that has been a victim for 400 years of cruelty and brutality, I can barely feel anything. It would be kind if I felt nothing for that person, because holy fucking shit, what are you, an idiot? So Chanel said, I don't know why people are still hooked with Charlie Kirk. He's dead, and I think his ideology is dying quicker than we think. Listen, it's one of those things where it's a death cult. Even if it don't die quickly, it's going to die because it keeps killing them. You know what I mean? Like, holy shit.
People's mail order brides being deported, and it's often people who voted for him. And whether or not they regret it is up for grabs. But understand, pointing this out about Trump is low-hanging fruit because it's been everyone since the beginning of time in this country, especially when it comes to conservative ideology. For example, consider free healthcare, something that the rest of the developed world has had for more than half a century, and it should and would be here in America if not for the utilization of culture wars. Numerous American presidents from a variety of political standpoints, going back to the early 1900s, have tried to create a universal healthcare system that was free to Americans, but were stymied by capitalistic and conservative entities using emotionally manipulative culture war methods of convincing.
It was also stymied by Democrats who are bound by corporations. Barack Obama and his feckless and unwillingness to do anything that really fucking mattered. And of course, you know, using his powers to stop Bernie Sanders from getting elected in 2020 elections. So, you know, everyone in power is to blame. They want to see you die so they can feed their corporate greed, pretty much. Lock that down, write that down.
Convincing the masses that having free healthcare was somehow not in their best interest.
President Truman was reelected largely on a campaign for a single-payer national health plan, and the Democratic Party gained control of Congress. At the same time, Americans were on edge after World War II, and a lot of that fear was placed broadly on the construct of communism. This fear towards communism and communists, which infested the world through the Cold War, became known as the Red Scare. Opponents of the WMD healthcare bill took advantage of these fears to squander its success. The AMA was one of these opponents, and with help from public relations firm Whitaker and Baxter, launched one of the largest lobbying efforts of its time. The group spent over $4.5 million, $48 million in today's dollars, on advertisements, newspapers, magazines, letters, and radio stations across the country. Slogans played on communist fears with titles such as "A Threat to Health" and "A Threat to Freedom," and utilized the term "socialized medicine" whenever possible.
Oh, wow. It looks like nothing has changed. Good. 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 Good thing nothing has changed whatsoever. Nothing has changed then. Nothing has changed now. And the 9th District of Illinois elected a witless, feckless, do-nothing Democrat to represent us. So we're going to keep getting nothing done. Too bad. We could have had Kat Abou-Ghazaleh, but instead we got this. Awesome.
Opinion in support of government health insurance fell from 74% in 1942 to 51% by 1949, just a year after President Truman was voted into office.
The same thing happened with the New Deal back in the 1930s. Was the New Deal the 1930s? Am I tripping? Don't make fun of me. Yeah, okay. The New Deal was at its core a socialist work program that lifted millions of Americans into the middle class out of poverty. But it only passed because it was initially designed to exclude undeserving Black Americans as much as possible. However,
yeah, if you guys are wondering why we can't get New Deal type politics now when we got it back then, well, A, we're stupider for sure. And B, we only got the New Deal because of racism. That's what it comes down to. We can have white prosperity in that love for whiteness and white supremacy is the reason why we can't have it now. If they could do it without giving it to black people, you'd have it immediately. And that's the very uncomfortable truth about our movement. And that's, I think, one of the biggest problems with leftism is when we try to exclude the realities of race and racism and how it affects our politics, how it is ingrained deeply in our politics. We don't understand the true villain that we're fighting, right? Like, you got all these leftists online and out in the world. They can't figure out, why can't we get it done? We got it done before, because you refuse to acknowledge the racism that is at play, that we can only have good things when black people are excluded, or brown people, or you name it, you got it. Social Now said the conservative right has one more tool, which is the Libertarian Party. Like the Republicans are dying, they can just assess in the Libertarian Party's hands. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And ultimately, part of that plays into it because the libertarian movement is a billionaire-backed movement. That's ultimately what it comes down to. But there are no billionaires or millionaires, for the most part, looking to take money out their own pockets, right? We don't live in a world where we have benevolent billionaires that are willing to, effectively make them stop making a few more fucking hay pennies in order for people to live, unfortunately.
After political wins for black people, such as the Civil Rights Bill, fair housing laws, etc., this required New Deal government programs to be more accessible to all Americans. And you see white Americans quickly turn against the very policies that induced the golden age of American prosperity in the 1950s and 60s. Even today, the very idea that people should get free health care is somehow controversial and un-American, even as millions of white Americans suffer and go broke due to health care costs. A fun fact to never forget is that white people poured cement into their own swimming pools to ensure that black people could not swim with them.
Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my God. Listen, I am a black person in America, and I'm not a scholar, but I like to think that I'm pretty hip on the immense cruelty of white people and white supremacy in America, but I never heard that. Oh my God. Acid and cement being poured into the pools to make sure that black people cannot be in there. That is fucking horrific. Those are children. But why should we be surprised? I mean, we have been actively aiding and abetting and paying for an act of genocide in which children in Gaza are being absolutely fucking slaughtered. So, I've always been of the belief that any cruelty that we inflict on the world, black people in America were the test subjects for it, first and foremost, always. Jesus Christ.
Conservative political positions are positions to maintain systems of dominance and exclusion, even if those most dominated and excluded are white people, all cloaked in the rhetoric of personal responsibility. Charlie Kirk himself railed against the idea that the government might offer free lunches to school children, claiming that the problem with school children was obesity and not food insecurity.
Do you think that there should be free school lunch for all children?
No.
Why?
Of course not. Because parents should feed their kids, not the government.
What if they can't?
Go get a job. Show me a single child in America going hungry. Doesn't exist. Number two, we have churches, we have food shelters, we have billions, and it does not exist. We have a child obese.
What a stupid, vile piece of shit. Like, golly. Like, I'm someone that's been politically engaged for a while, so I've been familiar with this stupid dickhead before he was even relatively important. And, like, God, we are infinitely better as a country now that he is in the fucking dirt somewhere, because holy shit, how fucking, you have children, you vile piece of shit. Holy shit. I flabbergasted. In America, you think people aren't going hungry? You think children aren't going hungry? Wow. And the fucked up part about it is that, like, this evil, vitriolic, racist piece of shit can feed his family by spewing this. Like, his family is going to eat forever because of this. That's the gross part about it. God damn. Wow. M said, that's why Mr. Rogers let, Francisco Clemens, oh jeez, I almost lost it. It's cool his feet in the same wading waters that he was using. Yeah. Man, you know, Mr. Rogers was a hero in so many ways, and I mean, I think he would be disgusted if he saw that where we were at right now in America, but I do think he'd be proud of people like Miss Rachel carrying on his legacy. Sochdale said he died under the hands of his own ideology. Absolutely. And you know what? I'll say it. Y'all not gonna catch me like Hassan. But y'all know what I'm thinking. Dare said, literally, how does anyone think he was a good debater? Laugh my ass off. People starving in the country. It's happening. Yeah, I know. He's not. He was. It is crazy that people are calling him the great debater. Maybe the great fucking masturbator. Like, you're going on to college campuses which you could not get into, and you're getting fucking schooled by children. Like, this guy was a fucking moron. He was absolutely stupid, but he was loud. And when you're loud, stupid, and bigoted, oh, you'll make millions of dollars. God, let me tell you something. If I decide to grift, woo, you wouldn't know, but there'd be ways to tell, baby. I'll be walking around with a big old elephant chain. Jesus.
Problem, not a child starvation problem in this country.
Refusing to recognize that those problems are connected and that there's tons of evidence that literally millions of American children need free lunches, and that it would be incredibly beneficial to those children and thus society as a whole to get them. In this clip, Kirk yells, "Get a job," and the crowd laughs because they still operate on the image of black welfare queens, not realizing that the average recipient of food stamps is a single white woman with 2 kids. Mind you, the woman originally used to demonize the concept of welfare and called the welfare queen was a white woman.
Her name was Linda Taylor, and she was identified by the Chicago Tribune in 1974 as a person who had committed welfare fraud while driving fancy cars, including a Cadillac. And very quickly after that, she was given the nickname the Welfare Queen.
It is accurate.
Wow. What a shock. What a shock. What a fucking shock. Every time you hear a bigoted statement from a bigoted person, it is them screaming in the mirror every single fucking time. Every single fucking time. It is someone screaming in the mirror. That is insane. And old Ronnie Reagan took that and said, I got something for y'all. By the way, from Illinois. Disgusting.
Accurate to say that a higher percentage of black children suffer from food insecurity in this country, something like 20 to 30% of black children, or around 2.3 million kids. And white children suffer from food insecurity at a much lower rate, somewhere around 7%, but we live in a predominantly white country. So that 7% adds up to close to 4 million white children whose parents need to get a job, so the rest of us don't have to pay a few extra dollars on our taxes to help their children not starve and not grow up being statistically more likely to end up dead or in jail. Ironically, paying for school lunches up front means paying less for jails, healthcare, and welfare later in their lives. But because
it's also fucking stupid too, because like, you pay taxes for your kids to go to school. So I'm paying for the building. I'm paying for everything. The teachers, the building, everything. And you want me to give more money so they can eat the food in the building? Like, what the what? And when I say more money, I mean money out my pocket opposed to out of my taxes. Like, what are we talking? It's so fucking stupid. But ultimately, this fucking small-faced dickhead, like, if you really break down the ideology at its core, is that it is worth it for white children to die from starvation if it means that one black child will die from starvation. That is the ideology of the right. That is the ideology of Charlie Kirk. Just like Charlie Kirk believed that it is worth him getting shot in the fucking neck like a goddamn moron if it means that some white guy can maybe kill a black kid somewhere. That is the equivalent exchange he is making. That is the equivalent exchange of the right. They would all die so one black, brown, gay, trans woman could die. That's it. That is it in a nutshell. There's nothing else. That is the core of their ideology.
Because of people like Charlie Kirk, many conservatives would rather those 4 million children starve if it means those who are undeserving suffer. Even now, as the government is preparing to shut down, conservatives are mocking people who won't be able to feed themselves. But here's the real power of this cult, of the culture war. Some of these same people doing the mocking were themselves once on SNAP benefits. Some of these same poor white moms of those 4 million kids are still likely going to vote Republican in 2028. And I want to correct the common sentiment from progressives that says it's because they're dumb. They're not dumb. Delusional maybe, but they just fully believe in the worldview they've been sold. And this begs the question, why and how? These decisions actively make America worse for everyone, not just black people or gay people or immigrants, everyone. And most of the people who suffer are white. And many of those suffering also support their own suffering. Why and how? To answer that is super complex, and I don't know all of it, but I know a big factor that brings us back to Charlie Kirk is his role in the culture wars and his job of recruitment and reinforcing of the moral standards of the right by using those culture wars.
M said genuine fiscal conservative support Head Start, even if they think disadvantaged kids don't deserve it because it saves money. Yeah, exactly. And because genuine fiscal conservatives are people that understand, the economy. They understand cause and effect. They understand that, if you don't take care of people, that or I should say, the ROI on taking care of people, it gives you infinite benefits in the future, right, of those people, right, in the future of the country. So even people that are actual genuine fiscal conservatives and not just rich dickheads who don't want to pay taxes, they understand that there is a actual need for these things. It's called a fucking investment. Social Now said Charlie Kirk was a great marketer. Don't get me wrong on that, but he was not really a good debater. It's unfair to put a CEO of an organization with multifaceted resources that college kids don't have and debate with them like it's like doing a muscular man arm wrestling with a 4-year-old kid. Yeah, exactly. At 100%. And and even he's an okay marketer. I mean, even that whole college thing, he stole from fucking Steven Crowder, fucking dipshit. When it comes down to it, Charlie Kirk's greatest asset was having the money so that way he could fail for years and then wait for Trump to take a hold, be against Trump, on his part, dumb decision. And then once Trump got in there, he finally had a place for his dipshit ideology. That's what it comes down to. Honestly, he just had enough money, like most of these rich assholes, to fund and support their idiotic ideas until it was the right moment for it.
To galvanize and build consensus with their base. And this is most prominent through the media. Today, that is YouTube and podcasts, but for a while, it was TV and radio. And that's where the foundation lies, in media manipulation. And to understand that, you have to start with good old Satan himself, Ronald Wilson Reagan, 666.
Dojo. Ronald, 6. Wilson, 6. Reagan, 6. Let me tell you something. Black people cooked. They cooked when they said that Ronald Reagan was the Antichrist, because he is that nigga is the devil. He is Satan on, I guess, below. And honestly, Trump, Bush, Kirk, they couldn't even spit in the amounts of evil that this B-list actor, whose wife had the throat of a goat, was doing. I mean, honestly, like, there's almost no problem in America that I could not directly relate back to Ronald Reagan. Holy shit. Let me tell you something. When I get elected president of the United States, and I hope they play this, when I become elected president of the United States, I will be exhuming the corpse of Ronald Reagan and putting him on trial like that one pope did to the other pope, because you need to be on trial for international drug trafficking, terrorism. I mean, holy, the list of crimes are goddamn endless. This man was the devil himself.
This man is undefeated in how often something bad comes back to him. In this situation, it's the 1987.
Did you just tell me that before Reagan you didn't pay for ambulance? Yep. You know, first of all, stop teaching me things. Reagan privatized ambulance. Stop teaching me things, because Jesus Christ, this man was. Listen, Peter Thiel don't have a snowball chance in hell as being as evil as this man. My God, that's crazy. Social Now said, but weirdly enough, he understood how to keep the Republican Party intact. He was the keystone. The rest of the dominoes fell when he died. Like the reason why you don't see Trump being erratic, or why you see Trump being erratic, is because you don't have Charlie Kirk as the strategist who would make the messaging subdued and sedated for the public. And you saw the far right hate the fact that Charlie Kirk was trying to keep the moderate face of the Republican Party. That's why it was shot. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. He was in many ways sane washing, and I think on top of it, I think when you think about it, part of Charlie Kirk's, part of the reason why he blew up so much, and like part of kind of to your point, is that like he had to bend to the erraticness of the Trump Republican Party, because he originally did not want Trump in the office. He was not a Trump supporter, and then he realized the only way he was going to get his bread butter was doing that. And because he's a grifter. That's what it comes down to. He's a grifter.
Ending of a policy called the Fairness Doctrine. You may have heard right-wing pundits at times try to make this seem like this doctrine would silence them and make it so they wouldn't be able to have the right to be on air, but that's not really accurate. The end result probably would change the way that all politics are discussed in media, but what the Fairness Doctrine really was making media companies more responsible for the type of topics they covered on air. Essentially, you couldn't have something like Fox News before the 1980s, and the same could be said for MSNBC, because the Fairness Doctrine basically said that if you have opinions of a political or controversial nature, you have to have both sides of that opinion. And they have to be presented in an earnest and direct manner, unless you could legit get fined by the FCC. Thus, it was hard to use media to exclusively promote any political agenda. There was political discourse in media before then, but it was much more measured and straightforward, more educational, and far less entertaining. Hence the many TV broadcast interviews of political figures, even radical ones like a Malcolm X. With the Fairness Doctrine gone, our politics became another framework for just being entertainment, just as subject to media manipulation and sensationalism in the name of ratings and marketing versus education and seeking the truth. Today, our political media looks more like something from Monday Night Football or professional wrestling, and entire networks of channels can push explicit and clear political agendas. And now there are large groups of Americans who only get their news from overtly biased sources. And no, this video is not sponsored by Ground News, but it is sponsored by Nebula. We can talk about that real quick. If you're enjoying.
And I'm actually gonna let this ad play in the background.
On this video analyzing white culture conservatives thus far,
I would also like to add. I would also like to add that you guys are getting your news from the most unbiased source possible. That is the Blue Broadcast Channel. That's right, folks. You're getting your news from the BBC. The BBC. It is fair, it is balanced, and it is heavily left leaning. All right, we're gonna get it all out here. Absolutely. absolutely.
Support my streaming service, Nebula. Nebula is an independent streaming
Now
service
said,
created by YouTubers like
but the
myself,
face of
where
the
we
far
can have a
right,
place
Nick
for
Fuentes,
creators to work the way we want to work and make
is
the
turning
types of
against
content
Trump,
we want to
and
make
that's the
without
biggest
the
face
persistent pressures
that has more
YouTube
leverage
puts
over
upon it.
Trump,
If you know
and it
anything
did
about Nebula,
divide
then you know
MAGA,
that we've had some of the
the
most
MAGA
talented and
that
forward-thinking
you
creators
have today is
around.
pure
And because we have so much
support
talent
with
on our roster, we have been expanding to say, what if we give
Nick
this talent
Fuentes
the
without
resources
Alex
to go bigger
Jones.
and better than what they
They've
thought
moved that
possible. Along
population
with
to
my
being
short films
purely
talking to
about
white
Trump
people, you
media
also
only.
have
Yeah, you're absolutely
full
right.
documentaries
You're
from
absolutely
Tom
right.
Nicholas, where he
It is
examines
crazy
how
that we
the
have
baby
literally
boomer
let
generation
a
is
white
affecting the
supremacist,
world.
white
There's also
nationalist,
short films from Jesse
neo-Nazi
Gender and
take
Philosophy
over an
Tube,
entire
reality shows
party.
featuring a
It's
bevy of
nuts.
creators, travel shows, even narrative podcasts, as well as a ton of content from legendary creators like Lindsay Ellis and Jacob Geller and real life lore that can't be found anywhere else. It can only be found on Nebula. Nebula is owned by creators and funded directly through you, the viewer. We don't have any big tech dollars propping us up that we have to answer to, and we want to keep it that way so that we can continue to make the exact thing that we want to make and to be as weird and out there as we can. And to do that, we rely on your support. So to help us on this evolution, please click the link in the description or follow the QR code on the screen to sign up for a full year of Nebula for 40% off. And right now, for a limited time, new subs to Nebula get 3 days of a free trial to test and see if there's anything inside Nebula that you really want to see. And you won't be charged until the 4th day, and you will get an email reminding you in case you want to cancel. I dare you to give it a try. I doubt that within 3 days, you have seen everything you want to see. You'll be supporting the growth, not just of my channel, but of creators like me to continue to go beyond the limitations of YouTube and modern media as a whole. Ground news shade notwithstanding, the point is that having a balanced intake on what political opinions you bring in pretty much started to die at that point. And then it got...
All right. Let me see. It's almost 11 Central Time, 12 Eastern Time. I think we're gonna pause it here, chat. But please remind me, we definitely need to finish this FD video. It's really good. Let me get back to boom. That was really fun, guys. Man, I really miss streaming. I miss being here with you guys. I appreciate you guys. Coming back and hanging out with your boy.